So today I want to make a video that I've been trying to make for a while. Every time I think about making it or I set out to try to shoot some B-roll for it, it just never comes together because I'm busy doing other things. But I want to talk about camera supports and long exposures when I do want to carry a dedicated device for supporting my camera for locked off long exposure shots. And so I did a lot of reading, I did a lot of research, and this, I think it used to be called the Safari clamp. Now I think it's called the travel clamp. This is from a company called Really Right Stuff. They make a lot of amazing, amazing photography support equipment. They make the base plates that I have on all of my cameras. They make all kinds of really, really specialized, really high quality photographic stuff. It's a little expensive, but I think you get what you pay for. This thing is bomb-proof. It's built like a tank. It's really, really light. You can see how flat and how thin it is. It's the size of a wallet. So it just slides into the back of a camera bag really, really easily. So you don't stand it on things, you don't balance it on things, you clamp it to things. And so that's kind of the limitation. You have to find something that will fit within these jaws. This is as wide as they go, about 3, maybe 3.5 inches. So light poles, fence posts, lots of things around the Disney park can fit in these jaws. It's got an ARCA compatible notch here, which matches with the rails on my cameras. It has 2 adjustment screws. This one with the knurled grip is the gross adjustment. So just a few spins of this, you can see how fast it adjusts this. So you open it, attach it to something, clamp it down until it's finger tight, and then this is your tension adjustment. This, you can see now as I'm turning this multiple turns, the jaws are still closing, but not as tight. This is how you tighten it down really, really, really tight so that it will not move. And then when you're ready to release it, you just back this off about a half a turn and then remove the clamp. You can buy this clamp just by itself without any kind of ball heads or attachments. And it's got, on each side, it's got multiple 3/8 and even a few 1/4 20s. So you can mount all kinds of stuff to this. You can put a proper ball head, a larger, more functional ball head, but I like this kind of half ball head. I have it on a 3/8 to 1/4 20 bushing so that it fits into this hole, but it can also go into other parts of the device. And with this one, you just undo this little flip lock, and that's about how much movement you have on this ball head. It's not a lot, but it's enough, especially when you consider I can move this, mount it on different parts of the clamp. I can change the orientation of this clamp based on what I'm mounting it to. So I don't necessarily need a huge range of motion in a ball head for something like this. I much prefer the compactness of this piece. Here you can see how I've got my camera attached here to a fence post out here on Tom Sawyer's Island. Again, this just needs to be finger tight to keep this from moving. Now there is something to be mindful of when you are attaching to fence posts and railings. It's holding the camera really solid right now. I could zoom in really, really tight and do a nice long exposure, and as long as nothing touches the camera or touches this fence, you'll have a nice crisp exposure. But if you're trying to film something during fireworks or a parade and somebody else leans on this fence post or sits on this fence post and jumps on it, if you've got someone's kid who's just swinging on this thing like monkey bars, this is attached and it will affect your images. So I just wanted to show you I've removed the clamp now from this wooden railing, and it hasn't left any marks. I didn't clamp it super tight. I didn't twist that screw till I heard wood splintering. So this is what you want. You want to attach it firmly enough where it's going to do the job, but don't go crazy and damage something that could be damaged. A lot of the stuff in this park is made of wood, plastic, or fiberglass, and you just don't want to be that guy or that girl. Be respectful, pay attention, test the hardness of whatever you're going to clamp to, maybe with your fingernail. If it dents really easy, or if it splinters really easily, maybe you ought not to clamp to that. Maybe find something else. So one of the things you'll have to get used to using a piece of equipment like this is you're not going to be able to just drop it anywhere and be able to get a locked off shot from wherever you want. You're going to have to look around for things to attach to. For example, this tree behind me has a bunch of branches that are all the right size for me to clamp to. I could totally clamp to these, but don't clamp to the trees because If everyone did it, it would girdle that limb and that tree eventually would die. So if you see a shot across the river in a place like this, don't clamp to the tree, look around for other things that you could attach to. So let's look around this area and find some other alternatives that are better than this tree that we can still use to support the camera using this clamp. So here's the tree, and if I look just to the right of this tree, what do I see here? I see more of those wooden railings, and there's even these trash cans. I want to show you the secret tabletop tripod mode that this clamp has as well. You're going to open the jaws with the little screw about as far as they go. They don't have to go all the way. I'm going to take off the head, and I'm going to attach it to one of these 1/4 or 3/8 on the side, and now I can lay this flat. It is not perfect. It is nowhere close to perfect, but I do want to show you that it does work, especially if I move it around here. You got to kind of play with the balance point on this, but it totally will rest flat on something like a trash can. Does it move a little bit? Yeah. But it's better than nothing. And as long as no one bumps against this trash can, it's gonna work. It's one of the reasons I would rather carry this than carry a tabletop tripod, because it does all the things a tabletop tripod can do, most of the things a tabletop tripod can do, and it can clamp to things. I think it's a pretty cool option. So now we're gonna go and get on a boat, we're gonna get off this island, and I wanna show you a few other things around the park that are good candidates for clamping to. All right, so now that we're off the boat, I think we're gonna make a quick grand circle tour of the park. I'm just gonna quickly point out all the things you can attach that device to for long exposure shots. Later this year, when Tiana's actually opens, this fence will probably have some stuff you can clamp to, and it'll make for some really cool long exposure shots. Right now, I'll put up a long exposure shot that I took through the fence back when this was Splash Mountain. Can't wait to see what that looks like as a new attraction. Now we're heading over towards the spaceport, towards the Millennium Falcon. This is where you're gonna have a view of the fireworks. This is prime viewing area for fireworks. Fireworks are gonna be going off right over here. And not only do you have a place to sit, but you've got this railing here. It's the perfect size for that clamp, so you can sit here, point it at the sky, and get some nice long exposure shots of the Millennium Falcon with fireworks. I haven't gotten any of those yet. They're on my list. So now we're going to head into Fantasyland and see what kind of options they have for us. We're crossing through a little bit of Frontierland now, and you can see behind me those wooden tubular railings have reappeared. After a while, you'll start getting used to seeing things you can and can't attach to. And then it's a matter of just finding something that you can attach to that also gives you a view of what you want to photograph. And that probably brings me to the next important point. If you're going to use a system like this to do long exposures, bring a lens that has a large zoom range. I'm using a 12 to 200 millimeter lens because I know that some of my choices for where I can support my camera are going to be limited. So if I can't get exactly the position I want, I need to be able to compensate for that with zoom. So as we get into Fantasyland, we start seeing these little knee-high railings around pretty much everything, and this stuff is perfect. That clamp will attach to those with no problem at all. And those railings are on both sides, pretty much all the way through the entire land. They're around every planter. Some of them are knee-high, some of them are waist-high. Some of them are a little bit taller. There's this nice railing all the way around Dumbo. This is good right here. And it goes all the way around the Dumbo attraction. Hopefully what you're seeing here is you don't need to lug a massive tripod around the park. There is an overabundance of things to attach to. Tomorrowland might be the best in terms of the number of options you have to use that clamp, because everything in Tomorrowland is metal. All right, as we cross the hub from Tomorrowland heading towards Frontierland, these wooden benches in the background, the armrests, will accept that clamp. So will the railings around all of the flower pots and all of the gardens. The only downside, if there is one, is that there's pretty much nothing out here on Main Street that's more than about waist high on me that you can clamp to. So if you're out here for fireworks or for a light show and the place is just packed shoulder to shoulder with people like it usually is, and if you're clamped off to one of these planters that's waist high or knee high like this, you're probably not going to get very many good shots. You're just going to get shots of people's backs and the tops of people's heads. So that is the one downside. During a show, you might not be able to get the height you need for those long exposures. Heading now towards Rivers of America, there is a railing all the way around the waterfront, as there should be. And so if you have a spot down here during Phantasmic and you wanted to do long exposures for some reason, or maybe a time lapse, or maybe just film the entire thing without having to hold the camera, there is railing here for you. Okay, so here we are in New Orleans Square. More of that same railing. We've got handrails here around the planters, fencing around all of the shrubberies, stuff around the dining area here at Cafe Orleans. Get one of these tables by the fence, attach your camera to the rail and just record a show. We're now crossing over the bridge that goes over the Pirates Quay. This is my favorite spot to shoot Phantasmic from. You need a lens with a little bit of reach, 150 millimeters at least. But again, there's a nice railing there you can attach to. You're not going to be shooting over anybody's head. You have a great unobstructed view. Just don't get too close to this tree or some of the view will be blocked. Now heading through Adventureland, my favorite land. It's just like in Frontierland and Toontown. We have this split rail fence. 1.5 to 2-inch diameter. Perfect. Here's some more fence by Jungle Cruise. We had one of these tables here right by the water. Might be able to get some cool long exposure shots of the boats coming in at night. There's some stuff up here by the Tiki Room that overlooks the Tropical Hideaway. Now we're exiting down Main Street. It's more of the same like we saw in the hub in front of the castle. You have that same kind of knee to waist high fencing around all of the planter boxes. It's great at night when no one's here and no one's in the way and you can get these nice low angle shots. But if you're trying to get something during fireworks, you might actually need to show up really, really early and snag one of the few spots. Like there might be a spot maybe up by the train station in the reserved seating where you can attach that clamp to a railing and shoot over everyone's head. Even if they weren't covered in Halloween bunting, these street lights are too big. These light poles look like they're big enough, but they're just barely too big. And also with some of these, there's a narrower one in the background here, but you can't reach it without jumping the fence. And we don't do that. It's one of the things I like about theme park photography is it forces you to be creative because you can't just walk wherever you want and set up a tripod wherever you want. There are a lot of things here that limit your perspective and they force you to take advantage of whatever position you can get, which is why things like zoom lenses, super zoom lenses, telephoto lenses, wide angle lenses are really, really important tools. Even if you don't shoot with them in other types of photography, there is a place for them in a theme park photography environment. So now that it's gotten dark, I've come back to some of these locations to actually try some longer exposures. So I'm here in Galaxy's Edge and I've got the camera set up here just at the top of the stairs descending down towards where the Falcon is. I've got it set for about a 13-second exposure. I went to ISO 200, f11, and that gave me an exposure time of about 13 seconds. And 13 seconds, I think, is about enough time to blur out any motion, any people who are walking through the scene. I also came over here to the submarine lagoon, shot a couple of long exposures here of the waterfall that the submarines go under. Those are kind of fun. Again, you only need 2-3 seconds. You don't need a whole lot because there's so much light in the scene coming from underwater. The monorail is closed right now, but usually when it's open, I can access the boarding platform up here by the submarine lagoon and get some pretty good shots. It's closed right now, so I don't want to be that guy and jump under the rope and go up to a closed platform just to get a photo, but I'll drop in some footage and the image that I shot earlier this year in May to show you what that angle looks like. It's a pretty sweet shot, and I use that same clamp off of this railing by the stairs and makes for a pretty nice shot. All right, so that wraps up my little review, if you want to call it that, of the Really Right Stuff travel clamp or safari clamp, whatever you want to call it. Hopefully I gave you some ideas about some use cases for it and gave you some things to think about when it comes to supporting your camera for long exposures when you don't want to carry a tripod around the park. I'll be doing some more videos in the future on different methods of camera support. I've got a couple other weird little products that we can play with and see which one works for me and which ones might work for you. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Later.